I'm your host, Mac. Today I have a special guest. Tom's here. How you doing, Tom?
Doing well, Mac. How you doing?
Pretty good. All right, guys. For those of you that are new to the show, we just ask that you subscribe, hit the like button, add some comments. If you guys see something interesting here, we really appreciate it, right, Tom?
Yeah, please do. Yes, absolutely.
Any questions for Tom, I'll just forward to him and he can answer. And we can find you on what, Facebook, Tom?
Yeah, I'm on, being a musician these days, I'm on every social media platform you can imagine. Instagram, just at my name. Facebook, at my name. YouTube, Spotify,
all the handles,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll put that in right here. I'll just kind of add it into the camera view here, and that way people can just click on it and see. So Tom, just tell us where you're playing right now locally, what kind of your gig is about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I play around town pretty regularly. I have a regular Monday night residency at Maggie's down in Jenks right now, where I play with my good buddy Sugar Morrow, who plays harp with me. We play a bunch of places. Him and I did the Merc, opening for Mike Hosty on this last Friday night. I got a gig at, let's see, where else am I coming up here? Maggie's, I have Thelma's coming up. If you go to my Instagram page, it's got everything going on. I'm actually headed out to Texas for a week of gigs on Wednesday.
I'll put in the video right here, like your little post.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know, because I was checking it out the other day. I'm like, okay, he's down in like Texas.
Yeah.
He's all over Tulsa area.
Yeah.
And I know you're like kind of rubbing elbows with some of the other guys that have been on the show, like Seth Lee Jones, and Paul Benjamin, and Jesse Cook, and Siobhan Tiger, and Mike.
Yep.
So all these guys, their names kind of ring a bell with you, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So you're playing with them a lot. So tell everybody what type of style, if they come out to see you, what are they going to expect?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really a Merle Travis style finger picker, and I always refer to myself as kind of a song interpreter. So I don't do a ton of my own writing, but what I'd love to do is like a lot of the old kind of folk guys did is I love digging through old songs, kind of old folk blues, jazz kind of stuff, and working those into arrangements and adding solo pieces to it. And one of my goals is that like when I play a song, that range is unique to me. That it's something I've added to it in a song that I can connect with.
Which is interesting because I like finding out, I like seeing different versions of songs out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like different James Taylor songs, different versions by him, by other people.
Yeah.
So if you take like a song, so show us on the acoustic for a second. If you just take a regular song, something that you just heard maybe, and then you twist it, take 30 seconds and just show us kind of what you do. Yeah,
absolutely. So, if I was going to learn a song, so we'll take one that just comes to mind real quick right now is like the gospel song "I Am the Light of This World," who everybody has done. The first version I heard was on the Yorma album "Quala." I heard Yorma Covenant from Tuna.
Tuna.
And so that song, he played it out of C position, but he played it with a cape on the 4th fret. So he was in E for singing. But then there's also like the Reverend Davis version where he had got it from. But then there's gospel songs that go way back, even before then, where they were singing that song. And then another, a couple guitars I love. I love bluegrass music. And I love Tony Rice, and I love, Doc Watson and all those kind of runs. And so like when I took that song, I think there's two things that are important when you're arranging it. One is people should know what the song is. I never like when it's like, well, what song is it? If you're playing "I Am the Light of This World," you gotta have. Or it's not that song, that's what it is. And so like, my goal with a part like that is just play it really well, to get all the pull-outs to play it really well. But for that song there, one of the things I loved was I added a couple of what I would consider to be kind of bluegrassy type runs to it. So the solo I take in it, I play through it, the solo I play, I get to it. Sloppy version, but you get the point.
Yeah.
And then I come back into the song.
I like it.
So that's a quick example of how I would kind of think about something.
Yeah, so you're keeping the song, the melody, the groove, whatever it is that you're attaching yourself to. You're keeping that part of it, and then you're kind of like working around it, kind of adding to stuff within it. So
the groove, you can change the groove, because I think I think one thing with anyone who does this kind of music, your right hand, you know, this is the saying, this guy Roy Bookbinder, who was one of my kind of, just a kind of a guitar philosopher and just a great guy who's been really good to me. You know, he always says your right hand is who you are. It's your personality, and you can't change it. You know, some of it's just what it is. And so I think that is what makes all these songs so special, is that you can tell when Tony Rice plays a song, when Duck Watson plays a song, when Roy plays a song, or when some, you know, when Reverend Davis plays that song, because your right hand is a personality. So your groove can change. The melody on a song like that should be identifiable, is my personal opinion.
Sure.
And then, you know, your solos on those things, which is, they gotta fit. You know, and sometimes when you hear stuff where people just go way outside the box, but some guys can pull it off. I'm not one of them. I really am looking for a solo that fits with what I'm doing.
So you're staying within the bounds of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, so here's the question I have for you. Some of the people are going to wonder like what you're using on like your fingers, because a lot of people that watch the show are not guitarists, and a lot are. So again, analytics back now, it's kind of cool to see where these people are coming from. Yeah. So you've got like a finger pick or something. You've got like, what do you got?
So I'm a three finger player. So I use my thumb and my first two fingers right here. You can see those. And then I'm wearing I wear Dunlop picks. Those are what I've always wore. I have a medium white plastic. They do make them in other ones, but for some reason the white plastic is what always, even though it's like tortoise shell and all that, but the white plastic is my preferred. And then I'm wearing 1/4 inch, so 0.25, which are the heaviest of the brass finger picks. And they are
it's different.
The real reason that I end up like this, you know, when I started out with this, and still to this day, one of my heroes was Johan McCubbin, who I mentioned, Hot Tuna. And when I saw him play, he was wearing the finger picks, and I said, well, if he's doing that, that's what I got to learn how to do.
All right, so you mentioned this now, Hot Tuna and all this stuff here. Yep. So let's go back a little bit and go, okay, so did you come from a musical family, or was there a lot of music in the house even? Or
a lot of music in the house, a lot of music in the house. And so my dad was a huge music fan. I was very lucky growing up with that. He's a huge jazz fan. I grew up with a lot of like what we would now call Americana, but back then it was, you know, it was kind of like heartland rockish, you know, like a lot of Steve Earle and a lot of, you know, and Rolling Stones and all the classic rock stuff as well. And then my parents were always like pretty, you know, I was very lucky. They were always pretty encouraging of it. And so they were always, you know,
so the music was playing, they let you play whatever, right? So if you bought CDs, what era are we talking, like 80s, 90s?
I was like late 90s, so 90s, I was like, my bands in high school I was really into was kind of like the grunge era. So a lot of the, you know, like I was really into like Stone Temple Pilots and...
Did you like Mother Love Bone?
I know who they are. I never listened to them. You know, I was into like that, like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, all that kind of stuff. But I was also really into like Neil Young and Bob Dylan and all that era of music. And that was what, as I got a little older, really won out, like that kind of...
Yeah, because you're talking about that era of time, and I remember... I was already married with having kids, and I was not really into the grunge as much, but I still kept a pulse on it from the 90s. Yeah. And so like the Mother Love Bones, their Soundgarden, all that stuff. And it was interesting, you know, Nirvana hits and MTV, everything changes. And, you know, you hear Joe Satriani and Eric Johnson give testimony about how that changed everything. But then I find guys like you come along and they're like listening to Neil Young, and I'm like, oh, okay, I grew up in the 70s and 80s. So I can identify with America and Neil Young and James Taylor. I can. And along with the Joe Satriani's and all that stuff too. So as you're growing up, right, were you the youngest? Were there older kids in your family?
I'm the oldest of 5 kids.
Oldest of 5?
Wow. So I was the oldest of 5 kids. I grew up in the Boston area. And then, so I was there kind of through high school, through my college era. And then as soon as I graduated, I took a job in the Denver area. And I was there for 12 years, and then we've been here in Oklahoma for the last about 3 years.
So in the journey now, okay, did you pick up a guitar early, or did your parents give you music? Did you go for music lessons when you were a kid? How'd it work?
Yeah, I mean, I picked it up, put it down, picked it up, put it down. It was one of those kinds of things, to be honest with you. You know,
all been there.
Picked it up, put it down. You know, I was very lucky. My parents encouraged all that stuff. You know, I remember them getting me piano lessons and guitar lessons and this. You know, and like most 6 or 7 year olds, I loved music and I loved it, but I wanted to like play baseball too with my friends, you know. I didn't want to sit inside and practice. And, you know, I was always a huge music fan, but I honestly didn't start taking the guitar in a more serious way really until like my mid-20s, the last like 10 years or so, where I kind of took, I knew like cowboy chords and folk songs and things like that, and then got really into this like fingerstyle blues and folk stuff. And
so were you out in Colorado then?
I was in Colorado at that point. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because being from New York State, I don't have the New York City accent. And
sure.
Being you're from the Boston area or somewhere, you don't seem to have the Boston accent. I got a nephew who lives there now, and and so and he doesn't either because he's from Western New York.
Sure.
So you don't seem to have it. Maybe if you went back home,
certain words, my wife every so often be like, there it is. Yeah.
It's like people around here know tech. Will like have radar and tune into my Canadian kind of thing.
Right.
From the Canadian Toronto border and stuff. But so you're out in Colorado, right?
Yeah.
And so what happened out there that made you start delving into more of the acoustic guitar and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I heard Mississippi John hurt, and it really, I was so like transfixed that there was only one guitar playing, And at that point, I was playing guitar. I was doing folk songs. I was kind of trying to write some folk songs. I was very influenced by, Dylan, and I was really into at that point like the drive-by truckers and things like that. And so that was kind of what I really wanted to do. But also, it never like truly caught on for me. It never really, and not when I mean caught on, like it wasn't something I didn't love sitting down to write lyrics, to be honest with you. I loved playing the guitar. And when I heard like John Hurt, and then from there I really got into kind of like the Delta blues guys, which is not the style I play, but I really got into like some Charlie Patton and that kind of thing. And then I realized they were all just playing each other's songs, and I realized, if you want to become a guitar player like this, maybe you don't need to write songs, because they, like every one of those guys has a version of the Preaching Blues. Everyone has a version of Pony Blues, and they more or less had the same lyrics, but they would mess with the melody or the timing, and then they called it their own. And I was like, that's kind of interesting, And so I talked to a guy who was like, well, have you ever heard of Hot Tuna? And he guided me towards their, Live at the Berkeley House album, that like first one with him and Jack, and that completely blew my mind.
So it kind of changed everything.
Blew my mind, yeah, absolutely. I loved Yorma's playing. I loved the song selection he had. I think probably every song on that first album is in my repertoire somewhere at this point, because it was all traditional songs, and I was like, well, this is what you can do with traditional songs, and I remember hearing his version of How Long Blues on that, which is a song from the piano by Leroy Carr. And then, I went into the early days of Spotify or even YouTube maybe at that point, and I was like, well, there's 200 versions of this song. And I listened to them, and it's all, I was like, there's commonalities, but everyone made it their own. And that really struck a chord for me, that you could take a song, an old folk song like that, and try to make it your own,
It's interesting that the people talk about a good song, a good bass to a song is so meaningful, because then you can delve into it and you can change it and you can hear different expressions in it too. So we were talking earlier off camera about Derek Trucks. And he takes older songs a lot, and it's been following him since before he was playing with Allman Brothers, and you see guys like Kenny Wayne Shepherd and all these guys, and you see Joey Landreth now.
Sure.
Joey Landreth's one of my favorites.
He's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Yeah, he is, totally. And so like these guys, like you're saying, they'll find a song that they really dig. Little Feat is somebody that Joey Landreth and Alan Hines, who I've talked to recently last year. Alan Hines, I don't know if you listen to his stuff. Yeah, I'll send you his stuff. But they were affected by Little Feat and all these guys. But they went more, like Alan went more jazzy, fusion rock, and then Joey Landreth does his whole thing. What is he? Like soul.
He could do anything he wanted.
Electric slide opens. It's unbelievable. And we were talking about how Derek could take like 3 notes, take a song, break it down to about 3 notes playing. And it sounds, because he's using slide, it sounds like it's so much more.
It's so soulful.
Yeah, and I think I'm bringing this up for a reason. And one of your dynamics when I've seen videos of you playing and stuff is using your finger picking. You're bringing more to the table sonically than if somebody's just strumming.
Correct.
So show us the difference between just the strumming kind of thing. And then, or picking it out.
Absolutely. I mean, a good example of something like that would be a song like "Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out," which is a song everybody knows. Clapton did it, everyone. And if you look at the changes, few people do it a little differently, but they're more or less just a C.
played a lot of parties years ago. Just
Great
chords.
song. You know, and if you
how
took,
would you change it?
The way I would do something like that is I would go, I would go like, and there's a lot of versions like this out there, you know?
Yeah.
And then add a little thing like,
A lot different. Yeah,
so a lot different, you know?
Sonically things happening, which makes it pleasing to sit here and listen to.
Yeah.
Because I hear you tracking different things, you know what I mean? Like you're running some bass lines, you're running a little lead, you're throwing some bends in there, you're bending the 4 or 5, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and I hear that coming in, and it's interesting that some people don't realize it when they're listening to different players out there. They don't even know why they like certain things.
Oh, yeah.
But you've been able to identify, like, here's an old song, here's some different versions. Where do I sit?
Yeah.
And what can I do with it? So you're not really writing original music now.
No.
Not yet. You never know.
Yeah, no, you know,
never know.
And I
don't
do
discount it.
No, I don't at all. You know, I think the thing would be that, I think and I have friends a lot of my close friends are great songwriters, and I'm pretty tuned into those folks, and we toss around song ideas and things like that. And so like in that, a lot of the music I love is that, kind of, whatever you want to call it, alt country, Americana, folk, I don't know, that whole genre. I love all that stuff. But the reality is, I think if I was going to write songs, I'd be geared more towards that. But I love to play these. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what I love to play when I pick up the guitar. And like
it moves you.
It is. It does. I love. The guitar's a funny thing. It's one of those things. You either love the feeling of your hands on the strings and the way, like, it gets down to that level of stuff with the guitar. You know, and that is. There's something about that feeling, that like hearing that thudding bass, and there's a lot of folks out there who will take the old blues songs and update their lyrics, and that's fine. But that's fine. To me, I've always been geared more towards like, here's this beautiful song. I'll listen to 50 versions of it. If I identify as something, I'm like, I think I could play that, and I could sing it, because these are songs. And I think that's the one thing I sometimes see. I hear guitar players get away from is like it. Yes, we all know a lot of notes and a lot of chords, but it is a song, and in many cases, it's meant to be sung. And so, like, I'm always looking for something I can play and sing. I'll go listen to 50 versions of it.
So you find one that's interesting.
Find one that is like a base for what I'm doing. Like when I'm learning a song, I'll literally sit there and strum it like that until I kind of figure out like, oh, where do I want to go? Okay, oh. And then I go back and like really kind of start breaking it down, And
so you take it, kind of dissect certain parts, and then you bring it back together in order to figure out what you want.
In this one version, I'll have a piece in it, and I'll say, "Ooh, that's really nice." Well, I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take that. But that's what all these old blues and folk artists did. Like there's a joke that goes around. It's like we're all thieves, and we all are, no matter what music we play. We're all taking something, But I think with this genre, and I really see it as. My role is like carrying these songs forward. A lot of these songs don't get played, and when I go out and play a gig, people are like, oh, those originals, and I'm flattered by that in the sense that like it sounded correct. It sounded unique enough, like they haven't heard that before. But the reality is they're not. And so I think the opportunity to share about these songs, is really important.
Well, that's the thing. Like John Mayer always used to talk about years ago, is before he did his trio, and that is people. You need somebody to come along and be like the medium, the gateway into other stuff.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's you walk along to somebody and you're playing a song, and they ask you about it, and then maybe they go check it out,
right,
where it came from. Another way, like we text somebody, I think.
Right.
And when I have friends and myself, we all text each other new stuff all the time. It's so easy now.
Yeah, absolutely.
You find something, check this out. I don't like this. I love that. And start piecing together what you like.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the guitar for a minute.
Absolutely.
I know a lot of it is GuitarsOK.
Yeah.
So let's talk about why did you settle on this one?
Yeah.
What drew you to this?
So this is an Iris guitar made by a company up in Vermont. And this is their DF model, which is more or less a Gibson J45. It has a bolt-on neck, which is a little different. My two guitars I play, I have this one, and then I have a Gibson J35, like one of the the new old ones, you know, like the new ones made to be old. But this is kind of my main gigging one. I love mahogany. I think for finger picking, that dry mahogany sound has always been what I've preferred over rosewood for finger picking. And I chose this guitar, one, because it has a huge, big neck. That was a really important part for me. With this kind of thing, and then the other thing I always look for is string spacing. So a guitar with tight string spacing for someone doing fingerstyle stuff, the wider the string spacing, the easier to kind of get your fingers in between everything. But you know, that is the biggest reason. And then I loved the finishes on these. This is their like, I can't remember what this is.
It's like an edge burst, shadow burst kind of thing.
Yeah, and then they
Taylor. I'm a Taylor guy, so they have what they call like the edge burst, where it kind of has this like different tone to it as you get towards the edge. You know, you got like a binding that looks kind of older. You know,
and then they just stress the top. You know, they do whatever they do to it to make it sound old. But you know, I'm a one or two guitar guy. Like when I have a guitar, it's what I'll play, you know. And the only guitars I actually have in my house right now, I'm down to. I have this one. I have a Gibson. Then I have like my Seagull that I bought in high school.
Seagull, I know those.
Yeah,
coming from Niagara Falls, they sound down here at Sade Music.
Yeah,
but they used to be made up. I know we're made in Canada, right? Yeah, Canada. So we used to play them up all the time when I first played guitar.
They're fantastic, you know. So those are literally the only three guitars I have in my house right now. Are those three.
That's funny because you're touching on a subject. I'm getting ready to do another episode with Brandon Autry thing. Is how many guitars, you know, does it take to be a good guitarist? You know,
I think one.
It's different for everybody.
Yeah. I think electric. I have two. You know. Electric is such a different thing. You know, I mean, if you go into delving, as we've talked about a little bit today, it's such a different ballgame. I think as far as what you're going for. But I think, you know, for someone like me who does something within, somewhat, you know, not a super wide range of things. You know, if you're anywhere in like the folk, bluegrass, fingerstyle thing. Most people are playing some kind of, you know, Gibson, similar, or a Martin,
Gibson-ish, Martin,
or a Martin-ish thing, you know.
I like my Taylor-ish when I used to play Taylor, but that was more because I was playing more kind of popular, rockish style, church stuff, you know what I mean, and more adult, contemporary style. It fit in pretty good with that. Whereas more the Martin look and feel does fit more folky. A lot of bluegrass guys, I'll play the Martins and stuff and Gibsons.
I also think with the, like, I think there's too much emphasis on, this is my like high horse, I think there's too much emphasis on like the type of guitar you have sometimes. If you want to be totally honest with you, I think, to me, like, tone comes from your hands. You know what I'm saying? And like, yes, having nice equipment does help. I'm not going to deny that. You know, I love nice guitars, but I do think like, tone comes from your hand, and guitars are meant to be played. And I always have a hard time when it's like, oh, this is some
like
whatever. I'm like, well, you know, it's all put it in the right hand. You can put my old Seagull in a good guitar player's hands. It's going to sound great.
So here's a classic question going around a lot of the shows right now. All right, you have two scenarios. You're walking into a gig, you got nothing. You just show up. Hey, come sit in, Tom. But you on the fly, right? So you have two scenarios. Would you take a crappy guitar with a fantastic amp? Or would you take a fantastic guitar with a crappy amp?
Good amp, crappy guitar.
There you go. So that's interesting. Based on what you're just saying and telling me, a lot of people, it's like 50-50 out there. Like people argue both ways. But from your perspective, from your experience, the way you do it, you'd rather have a cheaper guitar with a really nice amp.
Yes,
because you can get something out of it.
Absolutely, and I would actually say, in particular, with acoustic guitars, we actually talk about this all the time. Of like, once you plugged-in acoustic guitars don't sound like acoustic guitars. Right. You know, like I don't care what it is, you know. And so, like this guitar, whose tone I absolutely love, once you plug it in, you couldn't tell that. Like, you know, if you put a nice pickup in a $500 guitar, you know, which is fine, you know, fine guitar. Yeah. Guitar. You know, I have argued the differential between how good they sound it gets real different, you know, once you plug them in, you know.
Right.
When you're miking guitars, it's a different ball game. And when I made my EP, the studio I played at had some absolutely beautiful old Gibsons, and I enjoyed every second of playing those, you know, pre-war Gibsons, but or I guess they were post-war. I guess they were late 40s, but really old. And but I think it's not that a great guitar doesn't make a difference. It does, but it's not as important as your technique, your tone, your touch on the guitar. Like, those are the things I think. I guess my argument would be those are the things people should focus more on than buying new guitars, especially with acoustic instruments.
With acoustic, and nowadays, so when I got into guitar, the first time around was back in '95.
Sure.
So back then I had an Ovation Slimline.
Yeah.
But it was crazy because it kept sliding out on me a lot. Because it was that slim. But I was the guy I learned from, Chuck DeRose, who's on Facebook all the time. Amazing, still playing.
Sure.
But it was all about the touch, kind of the feel, and I was learning electric guitar style with the acoustic. So I was showing up learning.
Yeah.
Like on an acoustic, So I was learning like Henderson stuff and Robin Trower on acoustic because like his perspective was like learn your touch, learn how to play the guitar. And then worry later about what type of guitar you really want. So later I fell into the Taylors. Later I fell into the different Strats, the Ibanez's. And I always have one main one. I'm like, I get one main one, I focus on it, and then I switch. And this has been my main one.
That's thanks to Drew.
Thanks to Drew.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, having the right equipment does make a difference. It can
change your color of how you play.
Absolutely.
It can change. So, like for me, it's more of a Strat. I feel comfortable with it.
Absolutely.
That's the way I kind of like.
Oh, when you pick up a nice guitar, like it feels great. I think I guess to sum it up, like you don't need a nice guitar to be a good guitar.
Correct.
Is what I guess I'm really trying to
Now,
say.
how many times have you seen people on the streets busking and stuff? And like up in Toronto years ago in the '90s, we used to go up there. And there's people down here might not know, but up in Toronto, there's a lot of first generation immigrants from Europe and stuff. And so they used to play on the streets in the summertime up there.
Right.
We go up to the Toronto Mall there, my wife and I, whatever, and they just out there playing. Chicago, Nathaniel Murphy, who I met recently, CME. That's how he started. Before he played for CME, he was busking on the streets.
I still bust to this day. If I'm in between gigs, if I have a spot to go play, I'll go play.
And go play. How many times though have you seen a guy out there with a beat up Strat or some like PV amp, and they're out there killing it. It just makes me feel good because it's about the passion.
I don't even like to touch the fans. Like I've had people be like, "You wanna," like if it's an expensive guitar, but it's a guitar somebody plays and works with, I'll pick that up. But when someone's like, oh, this is a something or another, like it's coming out of a museum case, I'm like, I don't care about how much money in my bank account, so I'm all set.
So let me ask you this. If somebody walks up to you and says they want to learn guitar.
Yeah.
All right, what would be like a couple top albums, your style?
Sure.
Something they hear you play.
Absolutely.
They're kind of moving. I used to play.
Yeah.
I want to get back into it again, Tom. Give me a couple albums. What would you pick offhand?
Yeah, great question. So I would pick albums that I go to all the time for like tone and all that kind of stuff. This guitar player's name is Frank Fotusky, and he is from New Jersey. I think he lives in Maine now. And he would have been, his kind of mentor was John Jackson, who played into the 60s, or actually played into the 80s. But he to me, he is, as someone who takes old songs and drives them to his style. When I listen to him, I'm like, that's what I want to sound like, and I've told him that, and so. If he watches the show, he knows I sing his praises.
Tag him if he's on Facebook.
Yeah, I will. I will. He's outstanding.
I'll put that even in some of the show notes for the YouTube.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of his. He's got a couple albums on Spotify. Every single one is a winner, but those two would be two of them. Another guitar. I mean, I keep saying Norma Kokkonen, who truly is, was kind of he is my foundation rhythmically. I was lucky enough to be able to take some lessons with him, and that really changed the guitar for me. But I love Qua that's kind of his first Fingerstyle. But then he's released all these live ones, which is really, the music's supposed to be, these songs are supposed to be played live, and that's how I really love to listen to that. I mean, John Hurt, any of the John Hurt stuff, and then I would go, any of the Reverend Davis stuff recorded in the '60s, which was like Harlem Street Singer. But he did a couple with Rudy Van Gelder, who did all the a lot of Miles stuff, a lot of the John Coltrane stuff at his studio in New Jersey. And Reverend Davis was one of the players, who even into the '60s, whose faculties were they were just unbelievable. And those albums they're just unbelievable.
So you're giving some people some stuff to chew on here. Yeah. So I'll put some of this stuff in the notes.
If I just had to pick a couple, those would be core ones.
That's awesome, man. Is there anything new out there that you've heard? Like for me, Joey Landreth is more newer.
Yeah.
So for me, I always push Joey Landreth all the time.
Yeah.
Even John Mayer stuff for that matter.
Sure.
I mean, but there's also like Gary Clark Jr., Doyle Bram Hall II, and Derek Trucks and all that. But I think there are some newer types.
Absolutely.
I mean, besides the Instagram sensations. I'm talking actual albums and
absolutely. New stuff. Yeah, absolutely. So on the guitar playing side, guy Tom Feldman out of Minnesota, another guy that's been kind of a mentor to me, still doing outstanding stuff. I love that new Nat Myers album that just came out. He's kind of kind of a hill country kind of guy. He took a bunch of kind of old songs and wrote some new lyrics. So he's doing great stuff. John R. Miller, I love. It's just like, that's kind of this style, but just as like guitar players I love to listen to, which I do think is important to listen to all types of music, all different guitar players.
Yeah.
I mean, I could listen to Chris Combs play guitar.
Yeah, Chris Combs. Yeah.
Forever. Just until Nate Bellotti is unbelievable. Seth Lee Jones, Paul Benjamin, Josh Westbrook,
Jesse Aycock.
Oh, Jesse Aycock. Barrett Lewis, who I see down at
Johnny Mullenix.
Oh, Johnny. Yeah. I mean, you could just, and the reality is, like, I could listen to all those guys, nonstop.
So this brings up another point, though.
I'm a huge Derek Trucks.
Yeah, Derek Trucks. You can always find him. He's always playing so much different stuff too through the years. It's amazing. It's finding players that have a passion, that just put it out there. Stuff always seem to be, whether it's acoustic or electric, always seem to be a lot of electric guitar players' favorite guitars. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
So like guys that seem to like. So technically proficient people can be interesting.
Absolutely.
And you can learn from it. That's all great and well. Like a guy that has passion and technically proficient is like Tommy Emmanuel. You gotta watch his stuff.
Tommy Emmanuel's great. Yeah.
That guy Nathaniel Murphy and these guys. But if somebody's starting off in guitar, I always love to push them towards people who are passionate. They got passion. Because the technic stuff just goes over a lot of people's heads. It
still goes over my head too. I think to me, like, the instrument is about feel, and I think one of the things I love, there's nobody I know that can play faster than Johnny Mullenix. He plays the fastest of anybody I know. But if you listen to what he's playing,
his phrasing,
it's beautiful. And like one of the things, I've been lucky enough on a couple of occasions where me and Johnny have done songs together, which are way outside the realm of what he does, and he'll fit what he does right to that. And that to me is what, like. And he's playing to the song, And sometimes like the Instagram stuff, the YouTube stuff, I'm always telling people, if you want to be discouraged quickly, like just go on there, because there's going to be someone on there at 400 beats per minute, running through a bunch of modes that maybe you need to know. Maybe there's some music out there you need to know that for, but there's no backing track, there's no rhythm section. Music at its core is rhythm. And that to me is when I listen to that stuff, it's like, we were just making this joke out there. To me, it's like someone running, like sprinting 30 yards. You know what I'm saying? It's like, wow, that's fast, but it's over, as opposed to like, someone really.
Like playing a game. So, for example, like I'm a soccer, rugby guy.
Yeah.
I watch rugby all the time. I love rugby. And Glasgow Warriors, my team from Scotland and stuff. But they have a purpose out there. And to see them play with a plan. Now, to watch just sprinting on a mirror dash can be fun. Oh, it can be fun for an Olympic thing. That's like Instagram, though. It's like I only watch the sprinters when the Olympics come around. Because I just want to see that 10 second, whatever it is now, 7 seconds, I don't know, for a 100-meter dash. But I can't sit there every week and just watch 100-meter dashes. No. Like, for me, I got to watch a game with a purpose, and that's like a band.
Restraint is important.
The band playing off each other, feeling a groove, and then like you doing solo, you're finding all that type of elements, by yourself.
Oh yeah, and it's not to say like when I'm at home by myself that I'm not messing around, like not adding every note on the guitar to stuff from time to time.
Or playing backing track.
Oh, absolutely.
Add it in there. Yeah, add it in there. It's so great.
But I think like when I get back to like what the song is, it's like nobody knows when you're down. It doesn't need a trillion notes. That's not what it is, And
so would you rather hear like one note?
Well, I mean, it all just depends on what you're listening to.
Johnny plays fast.
He does play fast.
His phrasing's great.
It's outstanding. Or even like it is all different instruments you gotta listen to. Like if you listen to Roger Ray when he plays in that band, like it is so tasteful what he does. And again, he's like Johnny. He could play 1,000,000 miles an hour if he wanted to. Chris Combs the same way. Like when you see him, he can go 1,000,000 miles an hour, but it's the soul of it that feels good. If you look at someone like B.B. King played what we would now consider to be fairly simplistically, but have you ever heard better tone or better like?
Right. I saw him live. He was sitting in a chair. It was New Year's Eve a few years back before he passed away.
And he still,
it was amazing.
Yeah,
it was just like wow.
Or like another guitarist I love,
captivating,
is Tony Rice.
Oh yeah, sure.
And again, another guy that like. He could rip it up and down that neck if he wanted to, but if you listen to his solos, you would find a note in the bends and it was what else was going on in that band. They were playing together. It wasn't just doing all
like
over
something. Yeah, like the sprinter compared to like a team sport thing. And that's something that bands are always.
That's just my taste, I should say. Yeah. That's my taste.
That's fine. That's okay, and I get it. And what you're promoting though is actually some of the scene you've been in right now you're promoting it without knowing it, is the fact that go see somebody, go sit in and sit around and hear like Seth Lee Jones and these guys, and go out and see some bluegrass bands, even if you don't listen to bluegrass much. Go try it out. I've been into jazz lately and stuff, and I've been learning some stuff. I'm playing all these chromatic lines and stuff. Like there's no in or out really. You're just playing until you land, making sure you land in the right spot. And so that's interesting. And so like a lot of Schofield, stuff like that. And so for me, like I can sit around and listen to it. It's fun, but it's always good to hear different stuff. So never. I try not to like walk into like a live setting, whether it's a bar or I'm at Disney World or somewhere or somebody's playing live. Wherever I go, I try not to trash them right away when I hear it. I want to sit for a few songs if I can, and see like what are they getting at here? And do they have a groove? Are they working something? You know what I mean? Because you'd be surprised. Maybe it's just an off song. Maybe it's something new for them. Just sit around for 4 or 5 songs. What do you got to lose?
Nothing.
But
you have a lot to gain.
Yeah, you might gain something. Right. Exactly. Glass is half full. So when you're playing out now, lately you're just doing mostly solo gigs, but I have seen you sitting in with other people, right?
So like normally what I do, I have I do a lot solo, particularly when I'm on the road. I travel myself. The economics of it is that you kind of got to travel yourself, and but when I'm here in Tulsa, like I will play Sugar Morrow is Dave Sugar Morrow is the harp player I play with. Me and him do a lot of duo stuff. The two of us are at Maggie's regularly. I played with him at the Merc. He's done just a wonderful job, kind of supporting the music I'm doing and just plays beautifully over it. Gary Sizemore, who plays fiddle around town, he'll play with me from time to time.
He's playing with, he's been on the show. I've got shorts of him. I got an episode with Joel.
Yes. Yeah. Joel's a great guy.
Yeah, Joel Jonas. Skank Hand. That's what they call it.
I forget the name of his band. Oh, Crash DeVille.
Yeah. So there's no episode. Check that out.
And then who else? I'll have Bo Halford, who is Seth's bass player, will play bass with me from time to time. And then Kurt Frenchie Nielsen will play mandolin with me sometimes. So I have a little bit of a road, as other folks in Tulsa do.
So people come out to a show, they might catch you kind of by yourself, like locally. They might catch you playing with like you got a harp band.
Usually in Tulsa, I have somebody.
You have somebody with you. Okay. But now before we end the show, I want to ask you about playing solo and traveling for a minute, because we've got this like post-pandemic thing where everything died off during the pandemic, and now you're out and about playing solo. So how are you finding like this to be? Is it a good scenario? Have you been doing all right with it? I mean, what's your gut feeling and what's your experience lately touring by yourself, traveling?
Yeah, well, I'm newer to doing it in a more sustained way like I am right now, to be honest with you. And it kind of just, I just left my job of 13 years, full-time 13 years back in August, and it was a planned departure. It wasn't a kind of spontaneous thing, but I was getting to a point where I was getting enough gigs, which honestly, if you want the honest truth, I was always like, if I could play a gig a month, I'd be thrilled. I love to play guitar. And the reality is, like, I'd go out and busk. If I would play no matter what. And the fact that I am making any money doing it and that anyone shows up to see me, it is true. I'm grateful for every single, I truly am grateful for every single thing of that and all the help I've gotten from folks who've just been so selfless in helping me. What I always tell people, I love to play, I love it. That part's great. I love to drive.
Right.
Love being on the road. I hate hotels. And that is, as someone who has 2 young kids and a wife at home, that's the time of day where, like I'm about to go out for 5 nights here, and it's not the time where I'm working, where I'm doing stuff, when I'm driving, or when I'm, about playing those gigs. But when I'm sitting in that hotel for those 4 or 5 hours, that's when I'm like, man, I just want to be home.
You want to be home.
Yeah,
I get it.
And that's always the hardest part.
If you're on a focus, you're driving to get somewhere to play or come home, that's fine. You're on track.
Great. Yep.
But just sitting around, it kind of kills you. So that's an aspect that brings like some of the people I've known through the years. They've been like down in Nashville and stuff. Joe McCroll and these guys I know, and they're younger guys from New York. They're down there right now playing, but they're young and they're single and stuff. And they like that joke. What do you call a guitarist with no girlfriend? homeless.
Yeah, right.
So I was like, but they're single. So you're married with kids.
Yeah.
And you're out here, you're kicking butt and doing your thing, man.
I'm trying. Yeah.
And so how's the reception when you go into a town, like when you go set up? I mean, you've got to have some like things you love and some things that bug you about showing up somewhere. Maybe there's nobody there to give you sound. You got to figure it out. I mean, what's your thing that you care for or don't care for?
Yeah. I mean, meeting the people on the road, I love it. That to me is the best. I mean, you know, and I think in a world that we live in, which, you know, you can't help but notice is polarized on so many different topics or things. The reality is you get out in the world, we're all a lot more similar than you think. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I always joke, you know, I play in some, you know, I go into Texas and I go into Missouri, some of these places where, you know, kind of a long-haired hippie in a Subaru can be a butt of a lot of jokes, you know, and I always say, you know, like, and they make them, and that's how we relate, you know, it's a wonderful thing. I love every second of it. You know, I'd say the only thing, I think anyone who does this, or at least I'll speak for myself, I know, or a lot of people that do it, you know, like, for a group of people that puts themselves out there, you know, in a very public way, we're insecure on the inside. You know, like there is a part of like, oh, what we're doing doesn't mean anything, you know, or is like is it resonating with people? And I think for me, like, as long as I know, the thing I have a hard time with sometimes is when you show up to a venue and they're you know, run into someone, they're kind of like, oh. Like, you know, they act like they didn't know you were coming or something. When, like, you're like, you know,
okay, that's legit, man.
And it doesn't happen often. You know, I'm pretty lucky. Like, a lot of the places I play, people are so darn good to me. You know, nicer than they have to be. You know, and but you know, that for me is always the part where I'm just like, oh, geez, you know, like
I can get it. Yeah, that makes sense.
So
if there's a person who's starting to go out there, like, you know, and trying, and they're watching the show because this is all over America.
Sure,
we're at over 500,000 views right now.
Heck yeah.
Thank goodness. So subscribe. But the thing is, you know, some of these people, they do it that fear, like you're talking about, which is legit because you might show up and there might not be anybody.
Yeah.
And I've been
there is. I've done that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been at gigs here in town with some of the guys we just mentioned.
Absolutely.
And I've hung out for the second set, and during the second set, I got my camera rolling and I look around and like bartender, me. And that's it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm recording, so keep playing, guys. So, and, you know, they love it, you know. So
absolutely.
But there is that chance that you could go out there and not flop. It's just you show up into a scenario you have no control over.
Sure.
And maybe nobody's there. And maybe nobody cares about what you're doing, or they don't seem like they do.
Sure.
But you got to just dig in.
You do.
Just keep playing.
Yep.
Fall in that passion, probably. I'm guessing, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I used to play out of soup kitchens and stuff, and
absolutely.
And people just walk by me. And like myself and whoever flautist I bring with me and singer, and I just play my acoustic, and you just cast aside like nobody's paying attention to you. You got to live for the music.
You do, and the fact
enjoy
is,
the people you meet.
And if one person, you know, to me, like if a place is put, like I know, you know, if a place is putting their hard-earned money up to like bring me in, like I'm playing that set. You know what I'm saying? Like I owe it to them. Like I'm doing that. The other thing is like if one person, we all have lives that are busy, you know, and have no difference. So like. In fact, if one or two people or whatever like go out of their way to be like, oh, I've never heard of this guy, but I like folk and I like the blues and whatever, and I don't know, sorry, Instagram video him, and I'm gonna go out of my way to go sit there and go to a establishment and watch him play. I'll never give him anything less than everything. You know, it could be 2 or 100. Yeah. Like I'm going for it.
I love it, and that's so true. Don't you like when somebody makes it big?
Songs too.
I love when somebody makes it big, and then there's a video footage of them years ago. And they're just playing to like nobody in a bar somewhere. But yet now they're in a band playing. Maybe they're a side guitarist, a John Mayer or something, whatever. And now everybody knows who they are, you know. And it's just like, who was that guy years ago? And then all these YouTube videos come up where they're playing to nobody. I think that's kind of interesting because, you know, whether you make it or not, you're still out there making it by making the music.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know if that resonates at all, but it's kind of like you're still making the music, you're still doing your thing. So, you know, I appreciate it, and I say thanks. You know, I'm out here and seeing all these guys, and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Come out at night, and I want to encourage everybody to find some local musicians, find somebody, no matter where you are watching the show. Find somebody, go on Facebook, Google, whatever, you know, local music.
Yeah, just walk in.
Try something. Know? Yeah, walk in. What do you got to lose? You go in, grab a burger, grab a beer, whatever your thing, you know, Diet Coke sometimes for me, you know, whatever, just sit there, relax, and go try something different and get out of yourself from it. So if you had as we close here, what would be your advice to young musicians trying to get out there, like to try and do what you're doing right now?
Yeah. I still feel like I'm so much in the learning process on some of this, you know, to be honest with you. I'll share kind of like, you know, what I've picked up, you know. I think, you know, so for me, like I am, you know, I'm making a living doing it right now, you know, and I fully acknowledge that there very well could come a point where I gotta have another job and keep and do this, you know. And like, I think the thing I would say is that like people I talk to who are younger than me that are like, you know, I want to go try and do what you're doing. One is that like you're trying to run a business like anything else is what I'd say. Like, you know, as much time as I spend playing the guitar, I spend on like I work a regular hours day,
like
you know,
management type
pretty
stuff.
much, you know, like it's you know, putting yourself out there, trying to book gigs, being for me what would be like something uncomfortably persistent, you know, and like following up with people and trying to get them to book you. And you know, I run my day like a regular work day. I drop my kids off school and like I sit down and if I have guitar, you know, I practice every day, but I also am sitting at the computer, like sending stuff, you know, and like responding and being professional like you would in any other job that you want to do.
So I think what you're saying is time management is a big thing for somebody if you're getting into this, like time management to like actually dedicate your time maybe to your craft, play guitar, you know, cold call, Facebook message, right? You know, have some videos built up. You know, maybe you can use some of these videos too, right? You know, stuff and get it out there so you can send people snippets and all that kind of stuff. But it is a business.
It is. I mean, it's a business in the sense of like how you have to conduct yourself. You know, like if you are not friendly, you're not, you know, not on top of your game, you don't keep your stuff in order,
man.
It's like anything else, you know. I mean, there's some folks who are so good they can do that and get away with it.
Right.
I'm not one of them. And so, you know.
You bring up a great point. There's a lot of different musicians, unfortunately, that I've seen through the years that were just not good with people.
Yeah.
And they're just whatever.
Or if you have the means, hire someone to be good with people for you.
Or get in a band where somebody's doing it for you. But doing a solo gig, you've got to be the manager, you've got to be the PR, you've got to be the social media guy, you've got to be the lesson, you teach yourself lessons. So.
And take every gig you can get. Like, I mean, and I, you know, I still take most every gig I can get. Like,
take them all.
You know, and there's not times I don't take a gig where I'm like, oh, I probably could, you know, maybe I could have passed this one. I'm exhausted. This is a lot, but you know, and like it's like I said, like I'll go bus guy. You know, like you'll love to do it or you. It's either in you, and there's nothing wrong with it not being in you because it's not, you know, there's nothing wrong with being like. I just like to sit home. I like to be at home.
Or just be in a band and let the band do everything.
Absolutely.
I know guitarists in town. They just show up in cover bands. Absolutely. They don't have to do anything other than when do I play?
Yes.
Let me practice a set list, and that's all they do.
If you're doing what I like to do, you either love it or you don't. You love being in the car. You love walking into places.
I think you got a great attitude, Tom. I think it's great. So everybody out there, get on Facebook, get on social media. I'll post everything on here. You don't have to try and spit out everything out here. We'll get the Instagrams, whatever you got. I'll put in the notes.
Appreciate that very much.
And I think if everybody can get out at least once around town here and see Tom and see what he's doing, you'll understand.
Come up and say hi, please.
Come up and say hi. Please. Say you saw him on the show. Right? Maybe he'll play a song for you.
I love it.
And I just want to say thanks to everybody out there and appreciate everybody. So please subscribe, hit the button, right? Hit the link.
Please,
and,
yes.
Hey, Tom,
support things like this.
I know, right? Come on, let's go, man. I'm not making any money at this at all. So not yet, at least. I ain't doing anything close to it.
I hope
It'd be great. But why don't you play us out for a few minutes?
Sure.
And, what are you gonna play for us?
Let's do a little. I'm gonna do a little Blind Blake thing. That'll never happen no more. Finish this up here.
Sounds good.
Pretty Papa, how you go my way? Man, I know what it's all about. Well, brought me home just to throw me out, broke my nose, split my head on that man. Catch you here, and I went through that kitchen and out through that door. She hit me with a chin tip. Hey, got so well, that'll never happen no more. That'll never happen no more. In Chicago, said winter and fall. Well, caused me to wear my overalls. Well, I got broke. It was my fault. Said you used to eat pork chops, leaving the salt and a gal. And a big name fancy car. And a 40-foot boat. Well, she took my gun. She took my dough. Didn't get mad. I didn't get so well. That'll never happen no more. That'll never happen no more.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks, everybody.